Hi guys, I just wanted to show you the new 3M Ranger fluid warmer that we have on the unit, the location of the on button, and what the tubing would look like that you would use for the fluid warmer. All right, now we are going to set up our Ranger fluid warmer. So here we have our warming set, our patient that already has an IV in place with IV fluids that are going. You are going to grab your Ranger fluid warmer tubing and cassette. The cassette itself is actually going to have two sides to it, one that has writing and the other side that does not. When we insert this into the Ranger warmer, we want to make sure that the writing shows on top and insert it fully. Now we need to connect the cassette to the patient's primary line. When we do this, we're going to have to separate these where the extension comes together. So make sure that you either roller clamp or turn off the fluids that are coming from her main line. Otherwise, when we take this apart, we're going to have LR going everywhere. So I have roller clamped on one side of the disconnection, and I'm actually going to clamp off the patient side as well. Now we can connect the patient's primary tubing to the tubing that's in the Ranger warmer. Now the blue port means that cold fluid is going through here. The cold fluid is her LR, which is at room temperature. So we are going to connect her primary tubing, her LR, to the blue port. Once it's connected, we are now going to turn our Ranger warmer on. And when it's on, you'll notice that these are lighting up. The number is going to increase as the temperature rises. Now we need to prime our warmer set and get all that fluid out. So I'm going to open up the roller clamp so that the fluid is coming from her main line and it is priming all of the tubing that is in here. As it is priming, I want to invert this drip chamber. We want to invert the drip chamber so that it is actually pushing out all of the air as it is being primed. And I will continue after it is done primed. You do have a little space right here where you can actually put and store the drip chamber. And I am going to continue to prime all the way through the hot end. Once it is completely primed, remember this is the warm fluid that's coming through here because it's the red port. I can now take that and connect that to the patient's side. I will unclamp both of these, so now the patient is going to get the warm fluid. Now that we're done using the Ranger fluid warmer, let's go ahead and disconnect the cassette from the patient. When we do this, we want to make sure that there is no more fluid from the primary line going into the Ranger warmer before we disconnect it. Otherwise, we're going to get LR everywhere. So I'm going to roller clamp that. I'm going to even clamp this off to make sure that no more fluid is going into my fluid warmer. I'm going to go ahead and turn my fluid warmer off and remove the drip chamber from its holder. Now, if I were to try to pull this out right now, I'm getting a little bit of resistance because we primed this tubing inside here and it has actually expanded because it's full of fluid. So before we can pull this out, we need to suck some of that fluid off. So with my 10 cc syringe, and on the warming side, the same side with the drip chamber, you're actually going to find a port that you can connect your 10 cc syringe to. I'm actually going to make sure on the patient's side I've clamped that off as well, because I only want to pull fluid from the cassette. They say it takes anywhere between 5 to 10 cc's, and when you pull this off, you should notice that you're able to pull the cassette out fairly easily. Now when this is done, now we can go ahead and connect the patient back to the main line. And our cassette easily comes out, and then we will discard of this into the trash. We do not reuse the cassettes.